Welcome to the Mobile Hunters Dojo, a community helping hunters reach their full potential in the woods and in life. I'm your host, Matt Lear. Come on in, kick off your shoes, and take a seat on the mat as we develop a mindset for success, forge self-discipline, practice the art of continuous improvement, and hone our craft. Welcome back to the dojo. I'm your host, Matt Lear, and on today's episode, we have Brian Dombrowski with us. Brian came to the dojo for episode 1 and gave us a masterclass on rubs. I asked him to come back and talk to us about summertime scouting because I don't know about you, but I'm still a little bit behind the 8 ball, and I need to get out there, and I've got to locate some bucks to go after for the fall. So Brian's going to come back and give us a step-by-step breakdown of what to do right now during the summertime. This one is full of information. Get your pad and pen out and let's get into it. So I put a post out. Oh, it was when I was doing the rebranding and I took all the posts down. I put them all back up.
Yep.
And somebody commented on yours that said, the scouting OG, like he's just like you're the scouting master.
Yeah.
And how's your scouting going this summer or so far, or this year so far? It's not summer yet.
I started in December. Right after season, I started, but I didn't stop until almost May.
Really?
So,
and that's
back out. That's right? Really what's that?
You'll be back out again, though, won't you?
Yeah. It's that's really hard scouting. That's boom, boom. Miles and miles and miles and acres and just covering ground. I covered everything I wanted to.
Wow.
Got, a lot of new ground, and right now it's kind of marinating this time of year for me. You know what I mean? I just stay the heck out right now.
Yep.
I'm going to slip in probably more end of June, end of June. And I'm going to get everything deployed around that time.
Yep.
But yeah, I pounded the ground this year. Absolutely pounded.
Even more so than years past, huh?
Yeah, my hips hurt. But I've been working out too.
Yeah,
that's important. So, to keep scouting and exercise in the same breath.
Yeah,
especially this time of year. I see a lot of guys bulking up. I've never been a big muscle guy. I'm more about stamina.
Yeah,
so
it makes sense.
Go and go and go and go.
Yeah, you feeling pretty good about what you found?
Yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I might, it's weird, but I might not even hunt the same stand, as I did last year, any of them.
Yeah.
And it's like that every year. It's like you're reinventing the wheel every single year on these properties. It's constant, a lot of, they're cutting timber all over here.
Yeah.
A lot of change. So you're changing new properties, getting rid of old properties. It's constant.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. So one of the topics I was wondering if we could talk about is summer scouting.
Yeah.
And one thing I wonder if we can do this or not, we'll see, is put our minds in a place where we might be a new guy.
Yep.
Who came across the podcast.
Yep.
Who's thinking different now and is going, crap, I wish I would have heard that podcast back in January.
Yeah.
And now it's almost summer. Oh man, I'm too late. What can that guy do in the summertime right now to get ahead of the game, even though he might be behind the 8 ball right now? We've missed out on the prime time.
Correct.
Is there anything he can do right now during the summer months to get himself situated for opener?
The best advice I would, from personal experience, because you're constantly looking for new properties, so you're kind of approaching it that way. Even though I've scouted a bunch, I'm constantly checking out new properties. But it's all about you're going to be doing your glassing, you're going to be doing your checking your food sources. A lot of the stuff you're going to be doing is from the road.
Yeah,
and you just, I guess you go in an area, throw your bike in the back of your vehicle.
Yep,
and get on that bike, put 10, 15, 20 miles on your bicycle, not an e-bike, just a regular bike, get some exercise, but I do that all the time in different areas. I'll just throw that back there, and properties I don't know much about. A lot of properties around here are maybe 100, 200 acres
Mm-hmm.
for size. And you can hear a car door 5 miles away a lot of times, So I'm making track traps along the roads. I'll
Yep.
just get off my bike, make a track trap, maybe drop a camera, 15, 20 feet off the road. Just keep going. You're doing a lot of glassing.
So let me back you up on the track trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those who might not know what that is. What's a track trap?
So for us older gentlemen, I'm 47 now. I think you're 46, 47. Or
Yeah, I'm 46. I'll be 47 soon.
Last of the Gen X people here. So
Yeah.
But before all these cameras came out and all this good stuff, we used to check. We would just scuff up a spot of dirt that we could just readily walk up to and just see what's walking in there based on the track size. And you just scuff it up. You can tell when people are coming in there. I do it in parking lots to see if cars are going in and out.
Mm-hmm.
You can just for monitoring. It's a monitoring purpose. It's a old school camera without actually seeing what getting a picture of the deer. But you can get a pretty good indication based off the size of the tracks in there.
Is there certain spots that set up better? Like, I'm thinking of a spot that I have that's right across from a swamp that I know there's a heavy run that goes through there. So obviously, like, that would be an ideal spot because they're and right on the other side. So it goes swamp, hardwoods, and then alfalfa field.
Yep.
And so they go from the swamp through the hardwoods to the alfalfa field. And so putting one of those up right there would be ideal as well.
Yeah. It doesn't cost anything. Yeah, you don't have to worry about a camera being taken. And then if like shining is legal around here, so you can shine.
Same in Michigan, yep.
So bam, if you got alfalfa there, that buck's going to be out there one night.
Yeah.
So if you got a nice track coming in and out of there, just 2:00 in the morning or something, maybe a couple times that night, and you're going to get a visual on that deer one way or another. Even if you drop a camera 20 feet off that road.
Yep.
I do that a lot where I'll just pull over real quick, toss a camera up right off the roadway and keep going. And then usually pull it down before maybe the next weekend or something like that before we got a lot of people that hunt around here. So, or a lot of traffic in our lands. So I'll drop it maybe a Sunday night and then come back, Friday before the weekend and pull it and what.
Yeah, I do that around here too. I've got several cameras that are right off the road and actually never get touched, and nobody ever sees them because it's away from the parking lots.
Yep.
I'm selective on where I put them, but I find these heavy runs, and usually there's ag on the other side of the road.
Correct.
And I'm throwing a camera down there, literally like right on the edge, so I don't have to walk in the woods, and I approach from away from the trail.
Yep.
And it's been fantastic for getting like an idea of what kind of bucks are in the area. I mean, it's been really, really effective.
Yep. Let's say you find one you want either by glassing from afar, a bike ride. You can get so close to those deer on a bike. You're just driving along real slow and it's 15, 20 feet off here. There's a deer just standing watching you. But a car, it's a different story. When you're going slow. Let's say you find something you like and you've done a little scouting, aerial scouting or whatever, and you can kind of see the lay of the land and where that deer's coming from and probably where they're headed back to. So at that point, I'd probably, just get a little adventurous. I don't want to blow them out or, I just kind of walk down that trail a little bit, checking for signs, seeing this and that. And then right before season, if there is something in that area, my number one, I'll go out to North Dakota there, and my number one thing I'm looking for are early season scrapes. I cannot emphasize that enough. Even when they're hard, in velvet, they're still scraping.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking. If I see an early season scrape, I know there's most likely a batcher group right there.
Yeah.
And he's using that. And as long as that food source doesn't change, he's probably going to be there unless the oaks start falling. Then they're probably going to, oaks change everything, of course. They'll start heading that direction, but they're in the area. You're in the ball game, and that's what you want to be, I guess. But out in North Dakota, I will pound ground until I find some early season scrapes out there because I don't do any pre-scouting before I go out there. I'll just run in,
Yep.
but that's probably one of the most important things I look for out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
It's funny you say that because we went down to Nebraska last year, and
Yep.
the guy that I was with, his name's Chris. He headed out to a field. We both went to different fields that night. Within 30 minutes, he killed. It was funny.
Yep.
I was sitting in my tree. I just got up, settled in, feeling good.
Yep.
I get this text, buck down. I'm like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah." So that's what he did. He walked out to an alfalfa field. There was a fresh
Yeah.
scrape at the end of that.
Yep.
At the end of and he just looked down the run, went in. He didn't hunt that scrape.
Correct.
He went in.
Yep.
And within 30 minutes killed the buck coming out. I mean, it's 130-inch full velvet,
Yep.
So that works in September, but by October, is that a method that you're still using for those October states? Yeah.
I'm using I'm using a lot of scrapes up all the way until the end of October.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I am,
Yeah.
But I'm basing that off a lot of off-season scouting too.
Yeah.
I'm really looking for get back to that off-season scouting. I based, off of that. We got the bedding complexes, and I'm looking for specific community scrape areas and stuff like that, which are hard to find a lot of times, and that's to find a nice community scrape area. But early season, that's what I'm targeting. I'm, scrape, move in on them, if it's something I want to go after.
So how about a guy? So back to the guy who didn't get a chance to do that. Is there any danger for him walking through the woods right now? Like getting in there and getting in some of those spots? And no,
I really don't think so.
Yeah.
Our lands around here, there are so many people doing stuff out there. There's little pockets that people don't get into.
Yep.
And even if you do jump a deer, just don't act like a hunter, I guess. Just, if you don't act like a hunter and just someone just kind of lollygagging through the woods, the deer know that. Mm-hmm. But if you're being real secretive and kind of sneaking around, that they would perceive more of that as danger. And if you do jump that buck or a deer or whatever you're after, and they win, they make it out, they know it's a good,
yeah,
they'll be back in there. I'm not too worried about this time of year ground scent or any of that stuff. We just have a lot of people doing a lot of stuff we got trout streams for all these properties here, and people are running the trout streams.
Yep.
You got all sorts of hunters and just people out enjoying the woods. So
yeah, just,
get adventurous. I mean, if you can go from afar, make a game plan and move in on them,
yep.
But if you need to see something, you need to see it,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Like get in there. If you have to figure it out, get in there and figure it out. Cause you're not going to do any good.
No, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just get in there, do what you need to do, and, get the heck out.
Yeah. And be mindful while you're in there. So you're not like having to come back 2 or 3 times. Like if you hit a spot, and I've made this mistake a million times, thinking, okay, I got to cover as much ground as I possibly can.
Yep.
Get into the spot that looks really good, not spend enough time in there, take off looking for another spot, not finding another spot, realizing, and now I got to go back and make another day of it back in that spot. Just stop and break it down all the way.
Correct.
And figure out as much as you can, you know? Yeah.
Even, like when me and you ran out to Indiana there, we covered a lot of ground pretty quick, we're bouncing around and just, but I just mark a spot and I'm pretty confident, just from what we did, just getting back in there and finding that same tree. So a lot of times I'll take a picture of that tree, and you can add that to your app because you may not go back there ever again until you hunt it. Mm-hmm. So you kind of look at it and you're in the dark, trying to find it. But just get in there, do what you need to do, break it down, and get the heck out.
What are some of the stuff that if you were going in during the summertime on a new piece, you said scrapes? Is there anything else that you're looking for while you're in there?
Historical. I'm looking for a historical sign, especially rubs, historical rubs, rub lines. I'm looking for anything food related, close to bedding, because on the maps you can kind of tell where, based off the maps and breaking them down that where a good bedding area may be. The sign's going to back it up that they're actually using that. But then you're going to be back, you're going to further back your theory up with, um, historical sign like rubs. Maybe you'll see even scrapes are hard to find right now, because a lot of grass is growing up through them. They just can't see them very good. Licking branches,
Yeah.
but those are always going to be, I mean, you might be like, I don't know if there's a scrape there, but you look and then you can see the licking branches, and you can start putting the puzzle together based off that, historical rubs, scrapes. What I was amazed at is how quickly a rub looks old from like, if I'm looking at, like January, February till now.
Yep.
I go back and I look at a rub and I'm like, I can barely see it, and it's a big rub, he may not have hammered that tree, but that bark's already changed so much. You can barely see, you walk right by it now. So
yeah. Are you concerned when you find historical rubs like that? Are you thinking, okay, is this buck still, does it matter if the buck is still alive or not? No. You want to, can you expand on that a little bit?
If it's a historical rub, that's a nice, within the past few years, or if there's a lot of them in a certain area. I'm not concerned if that particular buck is alive, because I believe it's an area that people aren't, dinking around in a lot and messing it up. And they're obviously been feeling comfortable there multiple years. So, because you're going to see multiple years of rubs in that area probably, and that deer or his offspring, or that batch or group has felt comfortable in that little pocket. So that's one area I might do I'll be doing some surveillance, reconnaissance in that area just to see them. I'm not concerned about that specific buck, but if there's a big rub in there, obviously that buck, was in there for a few years and no one got to him.
Yep.
So there's probably another one coming up through the ranks, because I've noticed with some of these bigger bucks, they'll, when they start out young, they probably have a partner. They'll pal up with another deer.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden that one deer will get shot. And then they become kind of a loner. And you might see him with a real young buck, but you never really see him with his buddy. He's there. He's just kind of off, but he's always aware, I guess. He's kind of just on the hills, just looking over everything all the time, keeping, it's kind of neat. They're just always watching,
Yeah. I
don't know if that makes sense,
Oh, it does. No, it does. It does makes a lot of sense. So with food, you mentioned food too. You said you're going to start looking for food while you're in there.
Yeah.
So you're looking for oak trees, obviously.
Yeah.
What other food?
Before oak trees, I'm looking for browse.
Okay.
Right. Right. If you can kind of snake in there, and you can kind of see a lot of nipped red brush and stuff like that coming out of the bedding area. A lot of times you can follow that right back to where the bedding, that browse. Like in the marshes by me, we have, they love that early growth maple that comes up. They love ferns. There's, I don't know half the plants they eat. There's some guys that just can rattle that stuff off the top of their head, but I know what I'm looking for. I'm like, yeah, okay, what is that? Stingy nettles.
Oh yeah.
You'll see that just mowed down. I mean, you know they're close. They're big stingy nettles, and it's in the woods. They're bedded right.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close to that area. But if you can back that up with some historical rubs, maybe an early season scrape, that could put you right in a ball game right away. So
I've seen deer eat greenbrier quite a bit, like in the wintertime. Are they snacking on that during the summer, do you think? Or are they moving on to something different that's less painful?
I don't know. I think they just eat so much. They're always eating. They're just always eating stuff. Other than greenbrier, I'd probably be looking for just wheat. I don't know. We call them like CRP fields, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Where they can just hunker down in and just mosey around and just, they'll just sit in that till dark and kind of poke out.
So we'll go down a wormhole here for a second away from the main topic, because it reminds me of when you and I were scouting together.
Yeah.
And we came across a CRP field, and you were like, man, I want to go look at this little tiny line of trees. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't waste a second in that field.
I know. That's what you said.
You're like, man, I love these fields. Like, this is where I'm finding a lot of big bucks and deer and all that kind of stuff. And And so talk to us about the CRP fields and like kind of your experience with that a little bit. Cause I where I'm at, I just go, it's too open. They're not going to be in there. But you're like, no, this is actually perfect cover.
You got one thing I've heard is deer don't need trees. We
Yeah.
need trees. We want trees, deer don't.
Yeah.
I mean, look at some of the areas, Kansas, Nebraska. I mean, some of these big wide open areas,
Yeah.
I live by a lot of prairie chicken land here,
Mhm.
thousands of acres is prairie chicken land with brush. And deer do not need trees. We do,
No, they don't. Yeah. It's
Um,
funny when I'm in Nebraska, my mind switches. I'm fine.
yeah,
Like but in Michigan, I think just because I'm so trained to being in big woods or whatever, like I'm like, I don't know, it just doesn't look good to me.
yeah. But that's also, I mean, you got that experience in Nebraska, you can bring back to Michigan now, and you can use that tactic. But you get out in those CRP fields and you think they're flat, right? But then you're walking and you're like, it's like 3 feet, there's a 3 feet valley or dip here, and you're looking and there's beds down at the bottom of that and stuff. And then you're standing there and you can barely just see over it, and, I love just poking around those CRP fields, little brushy spots in them and stuff. I mean, those deer can monitor the situation. They can smell everything, see everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get on them in there, but yeah. But I walk around the woods. I don't know if in Nebraska, and we were walking in some areas. I don't know if, like even along the roads.
Yeah.
And jumping deer right along the roadways there. So it's, whatever the sign takes you. Yeah.
That was fun too. When we did that, we were scouting there. We hit right along the road, and then we think we kicked up a buck, pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then, went and found his bed, but we were kicking up deer just, I mean, I don't know, how many yards in do you think that was? It was 60 maybe?
Yeah, maybe 60 yards off the, yeah.
Yeah.
And where that particular deer is bedded, it's hard to get on. It'd have to be a morning sit as he comes back, because we got the road right there and then the farm field right across the road.
Yep.
Set up on an afternoon to get into that, it's almost, you might have to wait for traffic, I guess. If you had the right wind and knowing where he's bedded, you could get in there as traffic goes by and use the sound as cover.
Yeah.
But I would think that'd be a good morning sit as he kind of snaked his way back in there, maybe fed out across that field or something back in there. And that's an overlooked spot, I think, that a lot of people wouldn't waste their time on.
Yeah.
I don't even want to hunt it, but I mean, the sign's right, he's there.
Yeah, there was a house right there, like across the street. We would have been almost like looking in their window.
Yep.
But for him, it was a good spot, which means it's worth going after in the morning at least.
Yeah.
Throwing a sit at it. But so going back, so you're looking at food, and one thing you said, you're talking about how they're nipping off of like the browse. It's funny, like, to me, that just seems so logical to look for that now. But I recall, some years back, just when I finally realized that, now I can't help but see it when I walk in, and it just reassures me I'm in the right spot when I look at that browse and I see everything that's going on. My eyes immediately draw to that. I'm looking for things that are nipped off. The greenbrier's kind of nipped off at the top and it dies with a little black tip, and those are things that I think you can go, and it might be a little bit harder to see it this early though, I think. And if you're going in like June 1, maybe some old browse you might be able to see, but it might be a little bit harder. I don't know.
It'll be a little harder right now. Not a lot of stuff is up in the fields right now.
Yeah.
They're just, I was about the nipping, with soybeans, and anyone can do this experiment that lives by a soybean field, but a lot of times those deer will come out of different spots of that soybean field at different, a couple days here, a couple days here. Just do an experiment and, pop some of those tops off and see how that milky substance, how long it takes for it to dry up.
Yeah.
And that's something I do out, North Dakota. I'll be walking along that field edge and they're nipped off all over the place, but you can see right where they're coming based off the milky substance on plants.
Yeah.
Even though there's a big patch, or all along that field edge.
Yep.
It might be, because you hear it all the time. Someone sets up here, deer came out here. Someone sets up here, they came out here. So that would be just snaking down that field and seeing right where that, they're hitting that soybean, and just, okay.
Yeah. I never thought about that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
To kind of look for that milky substance coming off of it. I don't know why I never thought of that, but I just
Yeah.
never have.
And if you got soybeans in Michigan, just,
Oh yeah, we do.
pop a
Yeah.
couple this summer and then see how long it takes for it to dry up, time it.
Yep.
You can do that with rubs. You can make rub different trees, make fake rubs, and see how long it takes to turn that bark and stuff. And you know, you
Well,
know,
that's,
you know,
yeah.
anyone could do these experiments, right in your backyard. So
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. That's a
yeah,
great idea. So what else are they looking for while they're out in the woods? Is it so we've got scrapes if you can find them,
yep.
licking branches. We're looking at browse. What else are we looking for right now in the
Good,
summer?
good bedding cover that people just kind of leave them alone.
Hmm.
These deer don't want to be pestered very much. So right now, this time of year, the does are dropping. It seems like the does are moving around quite a bit.
Hmm.
They're going to be dropping their young right now. I try to just unmolested deer right about now.
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
let them be, and at least this month, this come June, end of June, I'm going to start. What I was
Yep.
talking. I'm going to start deploying my cameras, deploying my mock scrapes. Just um, that's another subject too. People are overusing those like crazy right now. Mock scrapes. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go off on that tangent. I'm going to actually lessen them this year because
Hmm.
I'm finding like they're all over the place. There's vines hanging all over the place. It's like, I think the deer are going to get confused out there this year, man.
It is telling, and actually, because I think you can go out in the woods and I think sometimes people over imagine the pressure,
Yeah.
but I think it's real easy to under imagine the pressure too while
Yep.
you're out there. Because if you're just going up a stands,
Yep.
but man, I went out, man, it was this earlier, like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I was scouting here in Michigan. I find this car hood scrape.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is gigantic. But it doesn't make quite sense to me. It like where it's at, it just doesn't hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and the licking branches were not much at all. I mean, it was like these little tiny twigs. It wasn't like a solid
Yeah.
scrape. And one section of the scrape was actually a little bit deeper,
Yep.
and the rest of it was very surface, but it was huge.
Yeah.
And I'm staring at it for about 10 minutes going, man, what is going on with this scrape? It doesn't look right. And
You knew.
I spin
Yeah.
around. There's a camera right there. I'm like, no way.
So,
Yeah.
so if you realize that it's not the right scrape or doesn't look right or something, I mean, you imagine that deer.
Yeah.
I mean, a mature deer. I mean, it may be mature bucks. Not they're gonna be like
Yeah.
it's not in the right location. It doesn't look correct. It doesn't feel correct. They're not gonna mess with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I saw a bunch of ropes hanging down and, just all types of stuff. And the more and more I'm out in the woods, the busier it looks. Because every time
Yeah.
I come up on a scrape now, I immediately look for a camera. And I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be pretty high that I see another camera there.
Yeah.
When I find a
It's
scrape.
yeah. Yeah. That's why I was just the placement is key on
Mhm.
those. So if you are going to do one during the summertime for inventory, placement, it can't be random. It has to be somewhere that, I like to put them in like staging areas next to the staging areas before they, right as they come out of the bedding.
Yep.
But then again, you gotta make it so it doesn't look like a human scrape. And because as much as I'm trying to track the deer, I'm trying to detract people.
Yeah.
I don't want a rope hanging there in the woods. I mean,
Yep.
um,
Do you
I
have some
don't want,
tips on how to make it look like a
yeah.
a regular one?
So the first thing I do is the placement is key. That's number one. You wanna make it. I like I don't know if we were out in Indiana and I kind of walk around like I want to be a deer, like
Yeah.
I'll find where that buck is bedded and I'll be walking around with my, thinking like a buck try.
Yeah.
You picture that buck coming up to that scrape and he usually takes one of his, he'll paw it off to the left a little bit, paw it off to the right. and it's kind of that V-shaped almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
As he's hitting it. So I think the shape is important. The type of tree is super important. I mean, it has in certain areas they make scrapes on certain trees. A lot around here, it's a lot of oaks. Those small oaks like you see in the back of this would be a beautiful tree here. But the place of it, how it looks, type of tree, all that can be, and it has to be where other people aren't, the deer feel safe.
Yeah.
Comfortable.
For your own camera security, it needs to be where people aren't.
And I don't worry about the camera side of it too much. I like to put my cameras up I install electronic surveillance and fire and security. That's what I do for a living. But I like to play the angles, and I like to put them out of your periphery.
Yep.
So, just up at an angle, kind of in a shadow, maybe even just something that just doesn't draw your eye to it.
Yep.
If you can kind of look around and not really see it, most people aren't going to see it. I've had so many people just walk right underneath, walk right through, walk by them, hunters, and it's just out of their periphery because everyone's looking. They don't want to trip on something. They're kind of looking ahead. It's just out of that periphery,
Yep.
Oh,
yeah. So are you using like any kind of sense or anything on it? Or are you just doing the old fashioned pee in the scrape?
No, I've never done that. I think that's Jeff Sturgis. I think he coined that one. So maybe it has been done before that, but no, I have been using buck fever synthetics.
Yeah.
Mountain Man, Troy Pottinger, I've watched a lot of his stuff. And before him, I know Rompola used that stuff.
Yeah.
I believe maybe that buck might be real. So
yeah. Us Michigan guys hope so.
Yeah, I'm hoping for you guys. I think it's in the basement somewhere, but that's a whole nother topic. But that's what I've been using the past several years, and that's basically it. I use that buck fever synthetics, and how that scrape looks and everything is important and all that. So
yeah. So you've gone in. We've identified some historical rubs. We found some browsing areas.
Yep.
Bedding complex. I mean, pretty much just a thick. I mean, it's almost like a guess a little bit at this point, unless you jump in there and you start like pulling up hair and stuff like that. But
yeah,
some of those bedding complexes you can't even get into without just totally wrecking it. But
yeah, and at this stage of the game, it's going to be hard getting in there and getting a visual on anything anyway.
Yep.
I mean, you might hear a deer take off, and it's so hard in a marsh to get a visual on a deer. I've tried it. It just, you can hear them running. I'll try running around and seeing what it looks like, and you never get a good glimpse. If you have if let's say you're a new guy going into it and you have an inclination or something in there, got a big track on that trail, and let's say you ride your bike past or something during the summer, you're doing some scouting in the field, even shining, see a nice buck. You can take your camera too and keep moving it down that trail. I know, because based off the mapping and the topography and everything, you can kind of get an idea where that buck is going to be. And then you can kind of just, maybe just make a couple moves with that camera, see if, how far back, because you got a starting point. You're like, I think he's going to be staging here based off the topography. He's going to be bedding here.
Yep.
So you can push the envelope a little bit if it's,
yeah,
but I wouldn't blow it out. I wouldn't go in there and just blow it out. It's going to be hard to get a visual on him anyway. And if you don't get that visual, it's for nothing,
Yep.
But
so we put the mock scrape in, throw a camera up. We'll see how we do there. Anything else that we're doing right now in the woods?
This time of year, it's more out of the woods for me right now.
Yep.
It's gear. It's reps. It's go fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of I'm
But in
getting ready
July, how about July? Are you back out in the woods after? Once you lay your cameras, do you do any like summer scouting? No.
just from afar.
Yep.
I'm glassing fields. I'm not doing a lot of walking in the woods come July. It's
Okay.
you know, I'm going out there. I'm just maintaining my camera. I run maybe about a dozen cameras a year, maybe
Yep.
one or two cell cameras. Um, and I got a pretty darn good idea off of, and I'm only running those cameras in spots I cannot monitor from afar.
Yeah.
I'm not just, putting them, I don't need to get a picture of a deer. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to get a picture of that deer if I can see him a mile away. I don't need a picture of,
Yeah.
on a, just because why even do that?
Yeah.
I can glass him with a, spotting scope from a mile away. I can see where he's coming out. I got a pretty darn good idea. If he's coming out right at dark, he's not bedded too far from that area, probably within 100, 150 yards from where you see him at that field edge. And as you look at a map, you can, okay, he's probably coming right there, and if nothing changes in that time, if you don't have oaks, and the food source hasn't changed come season, you can make a play on that deer, if it's up close to the season, you're watching them, you don't need to get a picture of that deer, don't waste your, I'm only using them in spots that I cannot monitor from a road, and these deer are not making it out to a farmer's field. They're in the middle, some big areas, because I'm always looking for this mythical creature, that's, what I mean, that you kind of stay awake up at night. Like there's just some monster sitting in this marsh that nobody ever sees, which there are.
Yeah.
Which they never make it out to the fields. It's, thousands of acres, and they're living their whole life in that marsh. So
yeah.
That's what I've been kind of.
Yeah. That's what you target, right? This is bigger, more.
I'm trying to target I like big body deer.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to target these big body deer. Mike Hanbeck, he shot a deer in Canada on Big Deer TV. And I was watching that video one time, and that deer I could see the veins in the stomach. And I was like, I just fell in love with that. I mean, the rack was really nice too, but the body, that thing was a beast. Then I'm out in North Dakota after that, and it's like 7:30 in the morning, early season, and all of a sudden I see a buck just like that walking across the field, coming back into his bedding and watching him bed down onto this edge. And my stomach turned upside down. I just went, because he was probably about 24. He went to scored much, he was probably 24-inch 8-pointer, probably 140-inch deer, but he was with another buck, like a 16-inch 9, and he was twice the size of that buck. And since that moment, that's it. Just it was just it's another animal. It's just a whole nother animal. Oh yeah, rack. Not rack withstanding. It was awesome.
What about the guy who goes out right now in the summertime? Yep. He's watching these big old bucks coming off the public on the bean fields. Cameras are going nuts. He thinks he's got it nailed down. Opening day comes and it's crickets. Yeah. What do you do then?
You're going to have that shift. You got to understand, a lot of these deer have home ranges of, I think MSU Deer Labs did a home range thing, and average home range of whitetails, 650 or 660 acres, different shape. I base a lot of going after specific deer based off of that. Mm-hmm. I'm figuring they're going to be in an area probably within a mile or so of where I'm seeing them. If they disappear, I mean, some of them are, some of them travel crazy distances or moving all over the place. But I'm guessing they're going to be pretty close, in there. But yeah, it can be daunting because you'll be running and they just disappear. Because you got to understand too, if it's a high pressured area, 2 weeks before season, everyone's in there just dinking around.
Yeah.
So that's where that prior scouting comes into play, and you might you might hunt that area in the season and it just doesn't pan out, but then you get back in there and find these little nooks and crannies where these deer are hiding. Um, but that definitely can happen, where you get your hopes up and these deer just disappear. But one thing I just thought about now is genetics. So let's say, like, there's certain areas I can go and I know the genetics in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
I know what type of deer are coming out, wide tens, this, there's a few different genetics in this. So maybe based off of what you're seeing in the fields at that time, you can track them back.
Oh, that's a great idea.
To where that genetic strain is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which that's a very plausible thing, if you've done enough homework and you've seen enough deer in the area and this area here, has really big G2s or something, this one here has crab claws in this area, this has a lot of junk, and you see a deer like that and he disappears. Maybe you can rotate to where you've seen those genetics in the past on your game cameras to relocate them. Because
thinking out loud too, what I'm thinking I might do during the summer, actually, because it's the only time I have time to do it, is I'm going to head out to the spots around that public that I was on, and find the thickest, nastiest stuff. Because these were mature bucks that I had on camera, and so my guess is they're probably going to relocate to something like that. And I don't think this is my idea. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were it's Ty Jennings from episode 21. He was talking about it. He'll relocate bucks by drawing a circle that's like 2 miles out and then trying to find like the best security cover. And then he goes in and relocates them with cameras sometimes. But that sounds like a good idea to me, to go and actually use this time now to go dive into, like, find the swamps. Doesn't mean I have to go in them.
Correct. Yeah.
But I can go find them and go look on e-scout it.
Yep.
And then go up to it and see if it is what I think it is.
Correct.
Sometimes I think a swamp's a swamp and I get there and it's not a swamp,
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, start thinking about the shift, because a new guy going out there who might not have, like I said, he just listened to a podcast. Now it's starting to click in his mind, and he's like, okay, I need to get out there. He does some summer scouting, sees the bucks. I know I used to think, oh, these bucks are here, and that means they're here.
Yeah. It's food based too. I mean, it's everything early season's food based. Food pressure, so if you are going in there, make note of these trees you're fighting. You got a big, you got a flat of oaks over here. You got, so you could plan that. Let's say you got soybeans and you're watching these things come out, but there's a white oak, there's some white oaks or a couple white oaks, half mile this way.
Yeah.
You could, make your plan based off of that.
Yep.
Just get in there, throw a sit at it. Don't have to run any cameras. That buck's in that area. You're just taking shots at different spots in there at that time.
Yeah. Something else that just came into my head. I was thinking about our first podcast that we had together. And everybody needs to go back and listen to that one. That was episode 1. And it was a rub mastery, like deep dive. It was so good. Like, it opened up my mind on so many things about rubs. Yeah. But going down and paying attention to those rubs now when you find them, and I know they don't look as fresh, but you can at least see the height of them. You might be able to see some, brow tine like marks, and you might be able to picture it up next to a buck. If you've got a rub that shows that it's got a split brow tine.
Yep.
And your glass, and it's a little hard with the velvet on.
Correct.
But if you can identify that they've got like a split brow, and you found those rubs out, then he's going to stay in that. It possibly could be his area.
Correct.
Another along those lines too has to be something that I picked up with you when we were scouting. You said this earlier in this podcast, but you do think as if you're the deer.
Correct.
I was walking behind you, and you also think as if that deer, whatever deer it is in your mind, that bucks that's in your mind,
individual. Yep, they're all individual. Yep,
is there. Like you're walking, you're like, okay, he's going to be right over here, and he's going to be doing this. And you were talking as if you had been in that area forever, and you knew that buck. And I think it's really helpful though, because I actually, after you and I did that scouting, I found myself doing that with my scouting.
Yep.
And it helps me just put the pieces together more and more. And I think I mentioned this in the last podcast that came out last week, where like running that narrative through your head is a really good practice.
Correct.
Like, okay, if I'm him, and I would even say it that way, not if I'm a buck.
Yeah.
If I'm him,
Yep.
yeah, because that's what you were doing. You were like, if
Yeah.
I'm him,
Yeah.
it really helped me. Like now when I walk in, I actually I'm able to picture the what's playing out a little bit better. I don't know what it is about it, but it's helpful.
Yeah. I probably look crazy if someone sees me walking in the woods talking to myself and I got my hands like this walking down the trail.
Yeah.
Because I'm even doing that if there's tight trees, I'm going,
Yeah.
getting in between those trees. But to start out at that, you find his bed and then you picture him just laying in there and ears turning, you got the wind over his back, what he can see. You can kind of get a visual of everything he's looking at. You can see maybe even a chink in his armor.
Mhm.
Like over here, he has a blind spot. I can use that against him. You can picture him standing upright at last light when the wind's kind of dying down. He's sniffing the air. Maybe he's looking for a satellite buck that he's hanging with or something like that, and just checking things out, nipping on a couple branches, stretching.
Yeah.
And then right at last light, as he slowly starts walking, towards that field, you get that visualization. I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And even to walk down that trail and you see what he sees and what he's looking at as he's walking down that trail, you can take advantage. I'm just looking for a way to expose him. Where is he going to be in trouble? So
the other thing is, do you ever encounter spots where there just isn't a lot of sign, but there's there's bucks there because you've seen them.
Yep.
But there's not a lot of sign in the area. What would you ever like if you're scouting and you go into an area and the topography sets up nice, it looks thick, you can see that there's food in the area, but you're not seeing a lot of big buck sign. Would you still go in and hunt it because everything else kind of works still?
I wouldn't hunt it unless I knew something was in there, and he doesn't have to leave a lot of sign. Maybe I just caught a glimpse of something there.
Yeah. There's some sign. There's got to be something.
There's when there's not, Indiana, there was not a lot of big buck sign anymore.
No.
So most people are like, this place, stinks, blah, blah, blah. But we found some 4-finger tracks.
Yep. We
found a couple spots that let me know there's a nice buck in there. And I believe everything was pressure based. Well, 2 reasons. The pressure out there is pretty crazy, I think.
Yeah.
So those bucks aren't doing a lot of, messing around, before dark, like especially a mature buck, 3-4 years old in that area, probably. And there's probably not a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a ton of competition. So he's not going to, deer aren't going to spend a lot of energy unless they have to. So he's not going to lay down a ton of sign, but there was enough out there that, that piqued my interest, just a couple I saw.
Yeah, that's funny because you did I tend to go look for the amount of sign. I like to walk into a spot and have it just totally blown up. I think Illinois kind of spoiled me a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm having the opposite experience this year in Illinois. I've been scouting 4 or 5 different pieces all across. They're not in the same area. I mean, I'm all across Illinois.
Yep.
And I'm just not I'm finding sign, probably like normal sign, but I got a little spoiled with the spot that I had because it was just tore up. But when we were in Indiana, I was losing interest really fast. I would walk in and be like, "There's nothing here. Let's get going." And you would just stay curious and walk through, and it totally worked out. We finally hit a spot that had a really good scrape.
Yep.
It was beat down, it was divoted into the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a grown man could lay in it in a fetal position and it would cradle you. It was a big scrape.
Yep.
And then from there, what I watched you do is just start scanning around that scrape, and then boom, there was a rub.
Yep.
And you focused in on that rub, started walking towards it. And
like
then,
a buck. Yep.
Yeah. And there was another rub. But sometimes we would lose that rub for a little bit, but I was watching you, and it was really fun to watch because I was watching you just kind of look like, okay, if I'm the buck, how am I moving through this terrain?
Yeah.
And then we'd find it again.
Yep.
And you got it all the way back to his bed. Like
Correct.
it was so like it happened so fast from no sign, no sign, no sign. Here it is. And then it was like you just totally zoned in and got right to the bed.
Just bird dog it. Yep.
You did bird dog it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, well, the rubs give you a direction to travel.
Mm-hmm.
The terrain tells you how they're moving in the area. So even if you do lose it, you got the terrain. You can kind of follow that through and then pick it up again. And then where that buck was bedded, I mean, it's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
Hard to, I mean,
really good.
Yeah. But I think a guy could take advantage of that area, I believe, but it'd probably have to be during the rut, I believe, to get in there and pre-rut when he's moving around there.
Yeah.
That's to say you could do that I mean, even in the summertime right now, you can do that.
Yeah.
You might not have these, as fresh a sign, but you can find maybe the historical sign and do that same thing off of. You find a rub, you got the licking branches from last year. Maybe they're not in there hitting it. You got a historical rub. There might be something in there this year. And then all you have to do is get a nice track. If you're, nice track, or maybe get a visual on that buck. So everywhere I go or everywhere I hunt, I have either a visual, I have some information that's I know there's a decent buck using that spot.
Yeah.
And based off of the time of year I think that sign is made, then I make a plan to go in after that buck. Because reading that sign and, is this rut sign, pre-rut sign, early season, coming into the fields to eat, but if you see my truck somewhere, I know there's a decent buck in there. So I'm not guessing. So.
Yeah. So I think the point too with that is like that spot that we went into, the terrain, everything set up right. Like it looked good.
Yep.
I was ready to knock it off the list because I wasn't seeing the sign. But the point is that if you are in a spot like that where you've got good cover, you've got food, you've got the terrain sets up well.
Yep.
There's sign there.
Yeah.
You just haven't found it yet. And it may not be a lot, but
correct.
But if all of those things are there, now if it's not that, if it's a wide open woods and there's not good terrain and then you need to move on. But if you get into one of those spots where everything sets up, but you're not finding the sign, chances are maybe there's not a lot of competition, but there's going to be some sign laid down somewhere. For sure, scrape. He's going to use a scrape.
And it has to be fresh sign when you're hunting, like early season or something. If you're going after that in July, it needs to be fresh.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to ask.
Okay. I was going to say, that's everything. If that rub, early season rub was, if you're walking in there, you see a cluster of rubs early season and it's a couple weeks, it's probably too late.
Yeah.
There's another thing you can do. Let's say if you're a new guy to an area and you pick the spot out way back into someplace, you hunt the sign in. I know Dan Infall talks about this. You never pass up sign. You never go back to it. Either you sit it or you write it off.
Yeah.
That's it. And I did that a couple years back on a buck that ended up shooting later on in the season. I had planned on going way to heck back in this parcel, this piece. And I started walking back there and all of a sudden I got a fresh rub back in the thick. And I just stopped. Another fresh rub. I'm like, crap. I want to still go a mile back, and I'm like, I got to hunt this, because I'm thinking, Dan's in my head, going, so I'm like, I got to hunt this. So I just stopped and I picked out a tree like 10 yards to my right because I knew that those deer were close. And I sneak around. I get my second stick up that tree. It's great. So it's grassy, up to your waist. There's brush. There's a couple scraggly pines. There's some, just kind of a marsh atmosphere. I get my second stick on that tree, and a buck was bedded 30 yards away. Got up and ran.
Oh,
So then I stopped and I just kind of said, shit. I'm like, well, he could come back, because it was windy out. I had to wind him, it was windy. I'm like, it could be a satellite buck, so don't you blow a buck out of there. Don't, there might be another one in there. So I'm like, well, what the heck, I kept going up. I got set and I sat there and I'm looking and I could see right where that buck was batted, just boop, right there, right next, I'm sitting there. And as the evening sun shifted, it was shifting. All of a sudden I looked to my left and I'm like, 60 yards away, there was another buck. Yeah. I seen his horns go turn. And I'm like, and it was probably about a 17-inch. I got that one on the wall in here, like a 17-inch 8 or 9, but a huge body deer, not a huge rack, but a huge body buck. And he got up right at last light, that deer did. And he stood there. And this is early season when he's not even pressured. So these deer do not move very far sometimes. I mean, you either are on them or you're not, in some of these areas. And I was 60 yards away. And that deer stood up last 15 minutes of light. He moved 5 yards this way. He moved over here. I think he was looking for his buddy I blew out of there. And then and then when it got dark out, I just heard him walk away. And he was walking towards some oaks.
Yep.
And he never made it anywhere during daylight, that deer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unpressured, early season. Nobody's been in there. That's how far they move. Some of them, it's different areas. But I ended up going way back in there then during the pre-rut. And I harvested that same deer. And I didn't know it was him at the time,
Yeah.
He came by me right at last light, dogging some doe, just kind of bumping does in this oak flat. Ended up taking them. So, but yeah, it needs to be fresh sign. I guess we'll get back to
Yeah.
Make sure it's relevant, sign.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be moved around based on the food sources are switching quite frequently at that time of year.
Yep.
That's probably why those deer you see them and then you don't.
Yep.
As soon as the oaks start dropping, they could be, half mile this way hitting them.
Yeah. Last year was kind of hell for that because
it's horrible.
The whole place was full of oaks, the whole property is full of oaks.
Yep.
And they were all dropping last year. So they could just lay in bed if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Correct. And eat if they wanted to. But I think that place where I was focused on, one of the issues was there's just too much access.
Yep.
Like there's no place that someone doesn't walk there. There's very few little pockets.
Yep.
And it held one of them. But like I said, he got hit by a car. But I'm going to go visit that pocket early season, though.
How big was that pocket? Was it that deer was in? I mean,
I would say it was actually kind of a large pocket. It was like, I would say 100 yards by 100 yards. If I think of a pocket, that's a big one.
And that's a heck of a deer, that was just boonk, just planted right in that,
He was, yeah.
Oh.
Yep. And another method how I actually found that deer was summer scouting.
Yep.
So I'm walking through because I didn't know the property and I knew I had to learn it.
Yep.
And I didn't have much time to do it. So I was walking it, trying to learn the topography. I came up on a ridge and I kicked the deer up and it just sounded heavy.
Yeah.
And so I hung a camera. I scout with a couple cameras in my backpack just in case.
Yep.
And the spot just looked good. It looked like just a lot of things came together right there. I didn't see a lot of sign though. There wasn't like old, rubs or anything like that. But I threw a camera up. And I was wrong. The deer came back. It was just a doe. It wasn't him.
Yep.
But towards later in the season, in September, I think the white oak started dropping.
Yep.
And he was in there. That's how I found him. I also found him on another camera that I actually was I put on a scrape.
Okay.
Outside of his little pocket area. So I had picked him up early season there, but then I picked him up over there quite a bit on that other spot where I hung it, thinking that I kicked up a buck and it was just a doe. But I actually got a ton of bucks on that camera, and it started helping me get an idea of what was around the area.
Yeah.
So what the point there is that it was a little bit of luck, like, hey,
take it,
take it, right? You see, you hear a deer jump up. It looks like it might be something. throw a camera up and see if it's anything.
Yeah.
That'll help you learn the area too.
Yeah.
And
And you don't have to spend a lot of money on your cameras either.
no, $30
I'm
camera.
I run a lot of Tascos from
Yes.
Walmart.
Yeah,
And
same
those things are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they don't, I'll put them on a 3-shot burst. The first shot's maybe a little brighter than the next two,
Yep.
maybe because of the shutter speed. But
Yep.
for $30,
Yeah.
it gets stolen. I mean,
I know. I've never gotten a Tasco stolen. I got my first cell got stolen
Okay.
this year, but yeah, I got them right here, man. I'll get it real quick to show the camera.
There it is, 12
Yep.
megapixel Tasco from Walmart.
Yep, $30, and sometimes you can get them for like 25.
Yep.
And they've been faithful, man. I've never had one give me a problem.
No.
I got 10 of those. I'll throw them out there.
So if you're a young kid starting out or something, and just you don't need a lot of money to do this summer scouting. Just a couple Tasco cameras if you want, glassing, So a lot of people could get into this. It's not just, people with a lot of money trying to throw a bunch of cell cams out there and pay all this. So
yeah, even then you can get some, mine are crappy, but they're cheap. I just find them online, people selling them and stuff like that, and pick them up for half the cost. But so just to recap for everybody, it's about getting in there because you have to. You got
to get some sort of intel.
Yep. Go get the intel, drive a bike, walk around, get curious, look for, old sign that, might tell you that that's a good area, investigate that more, get a little bit more curious.
Yeah.
Put a camera up on a scrape, make sure it's just a scrape that's, close to bedding and away from everybody else. And maybe make a mock scrape and, be careful how you make that. Look for food, look for browse, inspect what's going into the ground around you, see if it's going to be corn or beans and alfalfa, all those good things. Drive around at night, shine.
Yep.
Run those, track traps on the sides of the roads and put some cameras up on some runs leading from hardwoods to crop. And then prepare for the shift, look for those thicker areas that those bucks might move to once the pressure starts getting into the woods.
Yep. And it's based off of food sources, time of year, foliage dropping, of course they're going to move as the foliage drops through the woods. They're going to shift back to different areas. Prevailing winds for that time of year, they're going to move to certain areas based off the wind patterns. Just so much that goes in, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But just get in that deer's head. If you're after an individual, I think a lot of people see a really big buck and, that's all they're dreaming about, Get into that deer's head, just what's he thinking? Where's he laying? How's he, and that'll give you chasing individual deer has taught me more than, anything.
Yeah.
And hunting, just getting in that deer's head and doing,
Have you ever went out, did all your scouting, everything, and then went shining and all of a sudden found something else that was like, I'm gonna go for that this year? Or have you ever pulled off and decided to go after a buck that?
Oh yeah, I mean that's you're always keeping your eyes eyes and ears are always open. I mean you're listening to people talk. You're driving around at work. There's a lot of service guys out there driving in company trucks all over. You're marking pins as you're driving, you're just always keeping your feelers open because if it's not this year, it might be next year.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, my spots, I might be sitting in all new stand sites this year. You know, I mean, probably 80% of them are going to be new sets.
Is that just based off the sign that you found pre-scouting or postseason scouting?
Postseason scouting, logging operations.
Okay.
Just, pressure from last year. I know areas are starting to get pressure comes and goes in certain areas. So I may pull out of that area for a few years and I'll still keep my eye open and kind of see if there's anything, or I'll postseason scout it and see if anything was in there, if I read it right. But it's changing, hunting is public land. It's every year it's a new slate, just clean slate, start over.
Yep.
That's different on course, different if you have a farm, where you're raising, kind of raising deer, I guess. But
Yeah.
but
So when you go to, you're heading to North is okay. So I'll cut it off.
yeah. No, go ahead.
North Dakota. You're heading.
Yeah, I'm going out there opening week. Yep.
Okay. Cool.
I'm doing that for 13 years. I think this will be my 13th year, 2010, maybe 14 now. I think I skipped 1 year. My kid was born.
Okay.
So I got an 8-year-old son now.
Yep.
And I've been going out there for the opening week for, that many years.
Yeah.
I do no scouting out there anymore, preseason scouting. I've never done preseason scouting out there. I don't run cameras. I don't have any intel going in there except historical. Everything I do is based off historical scout,
Yeah.
what I've seen in the past. Because that landscape doesn't change much out there.
Okay. Yeah.
It is what it, there's not logging operations out there. The fields, hedgerows are coming and going, I guess, from some of the farm fields, but the area I go, it's the landscape has looked the same. The biggest thing out there, like if I find an early season spot this year with, a batcher group, and they're probably going to be there next year in that same spot, but they might be moving in different directions based off the feed, but they're going to probably be in that same spot. So I'm already in the game going into the year. There's been some areas out there that have been really, that's all I base it off is history.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. And so historical, or you're going off of that. So that just shows that. Sorry, my son's running over here.
No, my dog just ran behind me.
Yeah. So it just shows that there's no real rules in hunting, because we just said, hey, public land's a fresh slate, changes every year.
Yeah. Yep. Here,
but over there, not so much, right?
Not so much. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't, if you're listening and you've been listening to some podcasts this year, and all of a sudden, you heard that you needed to do some postseason scouting. Yeah, definitely incorporate that next year. But go break the rules and get out there, do some summer scouting now. And it doesn't mean you're out of the game. You actually can be in the game. It's just going to take a little bit more work. It's a little bit more difficult.
Yep.
You're going to earn it a little bit more.
Yep. In Wisconsin, I'm targeting more specific animals.
Yep.
So, and out in North Dakota, I'm targeting, I more of a general.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier that way, you don't have any expectations.
Yep.
Where nice groups of deer are and stuff like that. So you're hitting those. But in Wisconsin, it's kind of a different tactic. I'm going after, I want the biggest I can find, most, oldest, most mature buck I can find in the area, We're out there, I know it's probably not going to happen,
Yeah.
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 Keep it yeah.
The biggest thing I took away from summer scouting was terrain. I just really learned, which then when I got in there in the fall, then I would just scout my way in based off of the sign. And I knew where to go look for the sign because I knew how the terrain was flowing throughout the place, So I did end up hunting that spot like 3 times, and every time I was on bucks.
Yeah.
They just weren't the bucks I wanted to shoot.
Correct.
But I think all but one of the 3 times I could have killed a buck if I wanted to. They just weren't the ones I wanted. But but I knew where to go because of the summer scouting, walking on the terrain and finding the bedding areas and stuff like that. And then when the fall came, I walked in and just looked for hot sign and set up on that. So
that North Dakota, that historical area. So that 1 year I was out there, I've seen some giants out in this, couple 100-yard area in the mornings.
Yeah.
So opening morning, I'm out there, and I'm walking into a spot where there's some big oaks in this little covey. And I know based off history, they bed, they filter back into this area and they bed. And I'm up there and it's dark and I'm walking into that little cove of oaks, I guess. And I caught a whiff of the buck. I smelt him. He was already, you could already smell.
Yeah.
And usually you just catch that one whiff and I'm like, and I'm 30, 40 yards from my tree. I get up there and at, I think 7:30 in the morning, he came back in there. He'd been working that area and got a mid 160s on the ground opening morning with no pre-scout,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing better than that, I mean,
Yeah.
but then walking out, there was a fresh scrape right there,
Yep.
I didn't know it was there, but so,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's an example off that historical side of things, I guess, where like this year I missed a buck right there,
Yep.
last day. I've shot other bucks there late season, you know,
Yeah.
so I know that's always going to be a decent area as long as the geography of the area doesn't change.
Yeah.
So,
Is there anything else that you want to pass on to a guy who's don't feel like you have to, but if there's something that you wanted to say?
um, just talk about motivation, I guess. Because we've been doing this a lot of years. We've been, and you got to have something that motivates you. Not for anybody else, but we're doing this for ourselves. You're doing it, for the memories. And what motivates you? What drives you to do this? I guess every year, because we're getting up, 1 o'clock in the morning, going to Indiana. I'm 47 years old, and you know what I mean? It's like, I could sleep in, I could,
Yeah.
and walking all these miles and scouting all this property. You got to really love it. And I know there's a new term I've been hearing all year, the process, you got to love the process,
I say it a lot. Yeah.
But it's more than that. It's like a way of life, because you can find a way to, keep you in shape. You can find, it helps in different aspects of your life. And deer hunting does, spending time in the woods, getting back to nature, just keeping in shape. That's,
Yeah.
And when you are shooting a deer now, I'm trying to think more about the memory of this, more of the memory of the moment than, taking that deer and just, showing it off to everyone.
Yeah.
Just I had a really hard season, and I'm going to remember this whole season from this deer,
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that deer or whatever on the wall or something, it just brings back the memory of it. Because you're doing it for we're doing it for ourselves, basically, this. So
yeah. You said something to me one time. Well, it was when we were in Indiana. It messed me up. It totally wrecked my head for a little bit. You said you see, because we're both almost 50, and you were like, "What do you think they're gonna do with our racks when our mounts when we're dead?"
Yeah, nursing homes.
Yeah, and I was like, they're going in the trash. Like
exactly.
So it can't be for that. I can't be doing it for that. Like, I thought about that for like months, man. Like that has hit me hard. And I've been saying love the process, but what I mean by that is what you said.
Yeah.
Like I think it just makes me a better human being.
Yep. So right behind me here, I have I hung my big rack on the thing here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little 6-pointer.
Yeah.
And that buck means a lot because I stayed up in that stand. It was up in the Schwamigan Nicolay up in northern Wisconsin. You see a rack buck up there. You see a deer. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Let alone a rack buck. And I still remember that climbing, and I sat up in that stand from morning till dark, and until I shot him that night. My lone wolf sit and climb at the time, got up in there, and I still remember that deer coming out with a couple does and was bumping those does. And I remember crouching down in my stand as the tree's right here, and I'm shaking because I'm frozen, and I just remember the whole moment, So that's what you got to do it for. I mean, like all these deer we have on our walls,
Yeah.
Where are they going to go? My kid's not going to want. He might keep one to remember Dad by, but other than that,
yeah, exactly. And like, that was when I heard guys who were more successful than me say something like that. I was like, well, it's easy for you to say. You know? Like I don't have that yet.
Yeah.
But it's so true though, because you're going to chase it and you're going to get it. And if that's the only reason you're doing it, it won't fill that hole. Like it has to be for something more than that.
I was there. I used to be there where I was in it for the numbers. I'm in it for, I want to just walls of deer, and that's the way it started. I just want to just start laying them down. Now it's more, I'm okay with shooting a nice buck or two a year, even if I don't get one, I don't care.
Yeah.
I need another one on the wall, like a hole in the head, you know,
It's true. I wish they
yeah,
could see it because you have a lot of them.
but we eat the deer.
Yeah.
That's number one. We can probably do about 4 or 5 deer a year, and it's not all just about the bucks.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in order to be a good sportsman, you got to shoot does too.
Yeah.
So I shoot a buck or two, I'm happy. Then I'm going to shoot some doe. I'm going to get a couple does down.
I'm happy to more and more people are talking about that.
Yeah.
It seems like that's starting to really come to light that, hey, look, let's do this right if we're going to do it.
You picture all these out of state hunters. So I'm almost thinking some states need to disincentivize people from coming there.
Don't say that. That's my bread and butter. Man.
I know it stinks, but who's managing? Who's really managing the deer herd?
Yeah.
The local hunters.
Yep.
Out of state guys, are we shooting does? No.
I'll be honest. No.
Yeah. So all these people are going to Iowa. Are they shooting does? No.
Yeah. No.
All these, everyone's shooting a buck. They want a buck, no matter how big it is. They're going to fill that buck tag.
Yeah.
And it's left the locals, holding the bag, trying to get the doe populations down and stuff. So,
yeah.
But I mean, by disincentivize, maybe like Iowa, they don't have as many. They got a limit on how many people they come.
Yeah.
Or maybe even charge like a couple $100 for a tag, for a doe tag. But if you shoot a buck, maybe you got to pay another $100 or something. That goes in a different something.
Yeah.
Because it'd be good management. I mean, I just feel bad I see where everyone's traveling and going and just knocking down bucks all across the country, but and then the local people are left holding the bag, with too many does in there. So,
Man, Michigan just needs to start shooting. We don't even manage them here. We're not shooting does.
Okay.
I mean, it's a problem. That's not an opinion piece. That's statistically backed, and the DNR is saying it. We're stuck in that whole and you got to have a rack before we shoot it, and we need to start shooting does here. But I'm glad we got to this point in our conversation. I tend to always get to this point in the conversations, it seems like, because it is so important. But the idea, even on this podcast, I was a little torn. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Because, and I want people to be successful. I want anybody listening to this, who may have everything just clicked and go, oh my gosh, I want to get out there and do more. I hope you do get a buck this year. Please hear that first. Yep. I hope you get out and hope you're successful. But more than that, I hope that you just get out there and learn so that you have a long time in this. Like if you don't get a buck this year, it really doesn't matter. And I know it's easy for me to say, but it doesn't. If you get out and you learn a lot this year and it makes you a better woodsman, and then you can take that into next year. I guarantee next year you're going to be way more prepared from the work that you did this summer, and you'll do your postseason scouting, and then you'll start to evolve, and you'll not want to stop that process as you start to learn more and become more a part of the woods. That's what I hope more for you than you getting a buck, but I also hope you get a buck this year too.
Yeah, that's well said. I got a book sitting next to me here. So nothing we've talked about is, new in the hunting industry.
It never is anymore, is it?
I have a book here from 1989, Outdoor Life Deer Hunter's Yearbook.
Yeah.
And you know what they talk about? Rubs, scrapes.
Yeah.
Hunting scentlessly, quiet clothing, camo. I mean,
yeah.
The only thing that separates people, I think, is woodsmanship.
Yeah.
These picking out those details, finding these bucks. The tactics, nothing's really new. It's the details that reading the deer sign. That's what's going to make you a better hunter in this, throughout your career, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And this is right now is a good time. I mean, I think I increased my woodsmanship by walking the 200 miles last year, and most of that, about 100. Half of that was in the summertime.
Yep.
And I was just in the woods and just taking it all in,
Yep.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate your time. Here we are wow, that was quick. We went an hour and a half. That every time I keep you for a long time.
Hey, we gotta get back to Indiana. Maybe we'll get a call there and head out there for
Yeah.
a hunt,
I,
a couple
I,
weekends.
I'm open for it. You give me a call and I'm down.
Yeah,
If I'm not on one of those other trips, then I'll be down there. I'll go in a heartbeat.
yep,
Yeah, that'll be a good time.
definitely, definitely.
And when you're in North Dakota, I'll be in Nebraska.
Yep.
So keep in touch and we can chat. 'Cause I'm going solo. Are you going solo?
I've always
Yeah.
I've never really had anyone to go hunting with.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's always been solo adventure for me. So I met a lot of people out in North Dakota. Like last year, me and Garrett Prawl walked the property.
Yeah.
I met him out there, and
Yeah.
years ago, like all the tethered guys I met out there. I've seen Seek One out there. I've seen um, Bill Thompson's out there. All these guys are out in that area. So it's
Yeah.
In case you listen to that, they might know we're kind of the area now. So
Well, we'll wrap up here, but I'm going to encourage everybody to head over to your Instagram account. What is that? What's your sign? Your
Shadow Pursuits,
Yep.
Shadow_Pursuits. So
And you do always put out some great like clips and you explain things well. And I wish I could I probably talk too much in this one. I wish I could just put a microphone in front of you and just let you talk about deer for like 4 hours because you have a wealth of knowledge. So there's something to pick up there if people head over to your account for sure.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate you having me on again. That was fun.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, it's fun. It's always fun to talk with you, and I will take you up on that. If you call me for Indiana, I'll be there. So
yeah, it was fun. Yeah, especially after meeting you and then in person and then doing this. So
yeah. You put me to shame though. I had a hard time keeping up with you, man. Like
I was tired that day too. I was.
You're a beast, man. It just never ended. Like you're just like, I got to keep going a little bit more. And I used to be like that, but I got out of shape. After you and I scouted, I was like, no more. I'm gonna go work out again. So I've been working out, so I'll be able to hang with you this time.
I don't know. I'm down. I think 13 pounds from when I was out there.
No.
Yeah.
Holy cow! All right.
Yeah.
I got to step it up.
Sean T's T25.
Yeah.
I've been doing that. Yeah, we used to do the Tough Mudder race and stuff, like a 13-mile race, and do that. So
yeah, you're a beast, man. But hey, thanks a lot, and thanks everybody else for coming out. We'll be back next Thursday with another Whitetail Master, and until then, embrace the journey. Well, that is a wrap for us here at the Dojo. We'll be back next Thursday with another Whitetail Master. You can also listen to us every Tuesday for our 10-minute Tuesday episode where I break down a tactic, talk about mindset and personal development, or anything else that might jump in my head in 10 minutes or less. If you like what we are doing here at the Dojo, please give us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Mobile Hunters Dojo.